welcome.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Devil's Lair, the Devil's Workshop. This was named after one of my friends named this. Arch, it was actually on the podcast, and we had a couple of weeks ago. You're right. This is not proper. A couple of weeks ago, we had a.
Okay, I'm just gonna do what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. It's all right. A couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting because I like the guy. He's very interesting. Have you met him?
No, I don't think so. I just saw photos on Facebook, social media.
I have an
and stuff.
episode out with him.
I know.
He's very interesting. Should check
I
him out.
mean, the podcast was 3 hours long, so I guess he had something to
I chopped
say.
it up today. During the night it's gonna get uploaded. During sometime. Well, not all of what he says is probably interesting to you, but it's fun. He's a nice guy. Also, he's very positive on life, which I find to be a
Inspiring.
rare commodity today. Have you been feeling since you're back in Strasbourg?
Good most of the time. It's just, well, I think this is common, but the bad weather gets on my mood. So it's like, I get up, I see it's gray outside, it's raining, and I'm like, nah, why should I get out of bed? I mean, I get out of bed and I get things done, but still.
You literally have chosen the worst time. The worst time because
I know, but it's every fucking time I come to Strasbourg or someone comes visit me, it rains.
I
Just
know.
like, no matter if it's summer, winter, or anything.
I know it's horrible.
No.
It's
No sun.
It makes me think of London in a lot of ways. Have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For a
it's-
couple of days.
Yeah, it's the only thing.
Actually,
that's,
it wasn't raining when I was there. Weird.
wow, maybe it was raining here because they thought you would come this way, but okay.
Tricked them.
So, have you got any idea why I have you in mind when we all built this? I mean, I have a list of 100 people, but you were up on top, and for a very good reason. I was wondering whether you have any idea why.
No, I'm still kind of wondering why you're showing so much interest in me / my thoughts. So,
But you have something that fascinates me since the very beginning, and something that you do so much better than anybody else in my circle of friends. And I want to get there, because when I first saw you, when was that? Like 2.5, almost maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I came to Strasbourg in September 2017.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's like 1.5 years ago. I
Yeah,
guess.
something like that. And the question you asked drove me partially to build what we have built here, for example. Not because that was the only time we were asked this question, but it was very timed. And the problem was that I really wanted to give you an answer, like how to find what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just not able, which sucked because before that, I always have given that, yeah, you have to just follow your heart and you have to just, but that's not
What if your
useful.
heart doesn't?
tell you. Sure.
Well,
Yeah, sure. I get that. So it started with a lot of psychological research, and then I have been in the same position, and I was like, okay, now this is really getting a problematic situation. So, okay, let's do something about this. And I was revisiting the first episode, the episode 0 we did with Arthur as a test run of the whole technical side.
mm-hmm.
So camera sucks and audio sucks and everything, and we are talking very slowly, and it's a pain to listen to. But there are a couple of interesting subjects that I chopped up and are going to get uploaded during the course of next week.
I can't imagine you talking slowly, but okay.
I do. We were very tired. It was after like it was after a long day, and I do speak slowly, so I'll try to slow down even now, just to be a bit more, charismatic and here's the thing. What we all understood with all of my friends, or everybody else that I ever worked with, or everybody who I ever looked up to, is that the key to anything that you do is a kind of discipline that you have to have. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, what you are doing with your bodybuilding is
Well, it's not exactly bodybuilding.
how would you call it then?
Just
Exercises then.
yeah, exercises. Because I don't know. There might be different definitions of bodybuilding, but for me, bodybuilding is when you're actually planning on entering a competition, when you're actually working on going on stage, which I'm not doing,
Okay.
and I won't.
No, well, okay. Well, it is something I found because I find it fascinating because I tried. I honestly did, and I usually have the discipline. I had the discipline to build this, the studio behind you, other studios.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have the discipline to do that, I guess.
You don't know, and I think what you do is actually harder in a sense because everything in your body, even during you're doing it, I think says you to stop, and I don't know how you overcome that, and it's fascinating to me. You don't have that real voice in your head that says that you shouldn't. Let's just stay in bed.
No. Well, that depends on the days. There are days where you're less motivated to do something, but I guess that works for everything, not only sports.
I don't know, but I always had the idea that, especially because it made such a controversy that you asked this question, and simultaneously you did something that I don't think that I wasn't able to even get close to mastering. I mean, the physical world to me is like it's a way more complicated thing to like I said yesterday, like about dancing. It's like I thought that no, it's gonna be like this, you know. Sure. No, not really. And I had to realize it on the practice, and this is exactly what happened. So, and well, let me tell you something. As I was growing up, my biggest icon, like I think for many people in my generation, icon was Schwarzenegger, like the bodybuilding
Seriously?
icon. Oh yeah. Well,
I think it's pretty impressive. I mean, he got far. He got real fucking far.
I mean,
For a bodybuilder, you know, just like
well, yeah. If you want to think it like as a bodybuilder, he has gotten farther than anybody he started at the same time with, and then he decided to attack another career, maxed it out, despite the fact like this is Bill Burr's bit, but despite the fact that he wasn't able to even pronounce words properly, so he became one of the biggest actors.
Austrian accent.
Oh yeah,
that's
thick Austrian accent, and then he was like,
so funny. He's always subtitled on his videos, like on Instagram or Facebook.
The older he gets, the more you need it, I think. And I still think he's a very good example of how to be extremely disciplined and stay hungry. And there's a lot of stuff that we should listen him to. And honestly, I think there's a lot of stuff that you can actually learn from him. And I did. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't have that kind of discipline physically. It's just horrifyingly. I'm bored during.
Yeah, well.
And yeah.
Don't you think discipline starts mentally?
Definitely.
I would describe it as something that goes on in your mind. If your mind doesn't...
Oh, it's fine. if it
doesn't align with what your body does, you're just doing it halfway. Well, good or halfway bad or...
Yeah, that's for sure.
At least, for sure, not 100%.
But I think in this regard, I'm way less disciplined than you are, which means that, which brings me to my partial response to you is that I think you already have the key ingredient. You actually do it, and finding out the direction is like we talked about it yesterday is gonna be only about how much energy you actually put into the subject, like focused, like how much practically how much you work on it. And I think it's gonna work out just fine, because I had this question asked during when I was still motivated to do music, and and being a musician and becoming a world famous rock star and Metallica in one band. And I think partially what happened is that they I had an easy way of saying that, you know, you just have to follow your heart and go towards it and everything, but it's not just that. It's I don't think I ever asked myself the question whether I could actually live from this, and this was a big part of it.
But you did it for so long. How come that this question never came up? I don't know. I don't want to be superficial, but that's like one of the first things I ask myself.
Like, what
can
to do?
I live from this?
I started very
early
early on.
enough so that I won't worry about.
Well, here's the thing. I think now that's a very good. You know, I even now I wouldn't consider this an interesting question for myself. First of all, I'm not that much interested in money.
Well, yeah, but I mean.
And I'm coming from a very poor place, so it wasn't really entering in the competition. I always knew that I will have more problems getting the equipment that I actually think I deserve, which is way above my actual capacity, than living off from it. It's somehow money was never something that I worried about. I was worried about because I can live off of so little, so little. Have you ever tried tried it out? What's the absolute minimum you could live off of?
Not specifically, but I do make a list of what I earn, what I spent. So, I mean, and I am constantly trying to reduce my spendings. Just
sounds like you're a Capricorn. Yeah,
I am.
It's a typical personality trait. They plan out their entire lives. It's very meticulous and.
Well, I don't plan out my entire life. Just some parts of it.
Okay. Okay.
And it's not for a long time that I'm doing this actually, because I was like, I kind of don't really know where all my money goes. It's not that I have problems at the end of the month. Well, normally, if there's something extracurricular, yeah, sure. Like, I don't know, you have to pay whatever. I don't have a car, so that's not a...
Well, that's an expensive thing to add, that's for sure.
Yeah. If there's something extracurricular happening, yeah, it could be that I am short at the end of the month, but normally I don't have any problems. Since I'm working and I also have and there's also my dad helping me because actually he doesn't want me to work, but focus on my studies. So
wow,
he's helping me, but I want to work.
Okay.
So I have a lot of money actually.
Awesome. Good for you. Spend it all or not, whatever.
It's relative, a lot of money.
Well, we are in a rich
student
economy and we are not even the poorest people here, so it's fine. You know, we're comfortably off. After a certain point, you know, it's all pocket money, and you can spend it on motorcycle gear, or you can spend it on traveling or making a podcast happen. Food. Yeah, well, rarely.
I know, I know you, but I know me as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think we're comfortably off, but it was a very good example. It was a very good exercise for me to know what was the absolute minimum that I could live off of. And actually,
do you have a specific number?
Currently, the absolute minimum that I could live off is somewhere around 500 euros. But I wouldn't give up my internet. Yeah. I wouldn't give up my cell phone. I have some stuff to pay constantly. I wouldn't want to give up my bikes, which don't cost as much as a car, but they still have costs.
Well, yeah.
But when I came, that was lower, way lower. When we came to France, that was something. So I have sold everything that I had, and the girl I came with also have gotten some money from the university that she was working at, and an extra time. So we had a bit of money, and it was a very enriching experience that everything that you have ever owned gotten sold, and then you pay it out in one piece for 3 months of rent, and that's it, all of it. And then at one point, it became in July 2010, end of August, we ran out of money so much that I had no idea how are we going to eat.
Whoa.
We were saved by the bell. Actually, my grandparents sent like 50 euros for some kind of an anniversary. Yeah, that's unforeseen anything. I think they felt that something's up.
You didn't even have to ask.
But we have eaten for a week and a half from 50 euros, both. Not a lot of meat, I gotta tell you that.
I guess a lot of pasta.
Yes, a lot of pasta, and yeah. Well, so it's useful to know, you know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, I'm really. I think 500 is really low if you have to pay your rent and you don't give up on your bikes. It's really, really low. It's basically means you don't eat.
No, I do. But my food is 150, 180 euros a month, and that's it.
Okay, so your rent has to be really low, I guess.
Well, yeah.
That's just logical.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially back then it was lower, but it's the majority of the whole payment. And then after that, there's the internet, there's the bikes, there's my cell phone. That's it.
Yeah, because
you're done.
I am at like about 500 fixed cost, so there's no food included. So, and I spent
well, you know what?
Pretty much.
If I think about it, that when I left Hungary, the general salary there was 400 euros for somebody who worked full time. Now that was what pretty much my mother earned for 40 to 45 hours of work week. And it was stressful, and it's a different mentality, different mindset. In Hungary, people don't really pay rent; they buy their apartments. So it's something that we look upon as an investment. The only problem with it is that you hardly move.
Yeah.
It is, but it takes away your freedom, which brings Hungary closer to a point where either you live in Budapest or on the outside. And if you live on the outside, there's very little possibility that you will find work. And if you live in Budapest, then it's more expensive and it's stressful, and it's more polluted, and well,
either way, there's something wrong.
It's complicated. Basically. I'm not saying it's a great country. It's just economically it's not in such a good stance, and also I think the socialism that we had until '89 is really something that you can feel on people once you understand their language, and this is not something that I was able to tolerate for long because it's very stressful. It doesn't really make any sense to any people who live here. How much you lived here for like what then 1 year and a half? Yeah. How much different people were here to you as compared to where you come from? Well,
in my opinion, there weren't as many differences because I guess Alsace is pretty close to German culture, you know, because of the history and everything. So I didn't really see a lot of differences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not even people. It's same customs. Food is well.
Food is similar, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of pork.
Yeah, that's true. Generalsaft. This is what I learned from the 80s.
Pork, beer.
Yeah, well,
basics.
That you guys you know beer, sure. So how much of a distance? What, 500 kilometers, 1,000?
No, my God, no.
No, not even.
It's between 300 and 400. Well, from my hometown, it's probably a little further.
Have you ever went 300 kilometers further in France? It's completely different. That's one of the things that's fascinating to me in France. Where have you gone?
I mean, I've been to the south of France. I've been to Paris. What I didn't do at all is the north and the west.
All right. What's it? Why I'm asking this is because, well, you come from a culture I have really little access to, which is an intriguing point. It always is. And I have a certain understanding of how outsider people look at Germans.
Yeah.
You have a certain reputation, and then
I'm curious
French.
about hearing about that reputation.
Sorry,
I'm curious about that reputation.
are you really?
I just want to know if it's the same things that.
Sure. Aligned, of course. I mean, I think it could be summarized up as the German way of thinking, the language and the culture has contributed a lot, and then it contributed the absolute extremism that only were up to par to the Russians' kind of genocide, which I don't think we really understand, but it is still something we hold as an example. And I don't think it should be forgotten, but it should be put into perspective, which I think people have a harder time to do. So it's easier to prejudge people. But I don't think nationality accounts for that much. Having that said, since you speak multiple languages, a couple of episodes ago, we had this debate with Arthur and Archit. And they disagreed with me. They don't feel the same thing, but when I speak a different language, since I started learning them very late, I feel like I'm a different person. I act differently. I think differently, certainly. And I have had this theory for like 10 years that one of the reasons why there's such a big difference in behavior and in the manifestation of thought, if you want, or work ethic, for example, between the French and the German people, is primarily because your language is so much more structured.
Yeah, I think that language has a lot of influence on a lot of things that maybe we don't even think of, or we don't have really in mind. Language is the basis for really a lot of things. It's a part of culture, of course.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, language influences the way you act. I wouldn't say I'm a different person when I speak another language, but what I realize is that, of course, my voice changes.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to change the intonation. You have to change the way you structure a sentence. When you will go up with your voice, when you will go down, all that stuff. Whoops.
No, it's alright. Don't break my statue.
So yeah, and also the grammar, the structure of a language can play a big role, of course. What I realized is that in German, it's like, since we can just basically create a new word, we can describe things really clearly. So really precise.
Maybe it's something I don't fully understand. How is it that does not exist in other languages? I could do that in English very easily. Doesn't have to be grammatically correct, but it would make sense, maybe.
Yeah, but in English you're always forced to say the thing of the thing of the thing. In German, you just put everything together and it's a new word.
Okay.
In every other language that I know, this doesn't work as easy like that.
Hungarian does in some ways, but it was influenced a lot from well, we were oppressed by the Austrians for a very long time. So that's one of the reasons why Germans was learning German for me was obligatory. So I get the notions of it. It's just, well, I would have to practice, and I will. but psychology first, because I don't have all the time in the world. It's very complicated.
Also, you don't have endless capacity of brain, I guess.
Oh, don't bash on me. I mean, it's fine. I'm trying my best. I really do. Do you believe in UFOs?
In
UFOs?
UFOs.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Just kidding. You thought that this is going to be all this serious? There's this theory that
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, probably there's life on other planets, sure, but
well, you know, one of my friends who was very good in mathematics actually debated this, because he said it's like, look at how little time was necessary for us to being developed to this compared to the length of time in of the whole universe.
Yeah,
it's like mathematically it's a very small chance that there's anything around us in this very moment, maybe in a couple of 100,000 years, but you know, we might not be here to experience it. So
okay, yeah, maybe also before us there was something that existed, but well,
we know the mammoths existed before us, or
no, I mean
dinosaurs
on other planets.
Oh, probably. Well, who knows? It's very unlikely. You know, I love the citation. It's equally terrifying to imagine that there isn't as there is. It's it is. Well,
I recently watched a documentary about the flat earthers.
Oh,
on Netflix.
No, that's nice that you bring this up. That was one of the other subjects that I was coming across. So now you're a flat earther.
No,
really?
no, because no, I mean, no.
All right, debunked. I would say that doesn't really need much more than that.
What do you think about it?
I don't really think about it much.
Here you have.
Yeah, it's a gift from my mother.
It's not an earth, but it's.
Well, it's something.
It's a ball. It's certainly not flat.
You are fascinated with glowing objects.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. You can caress it and take care of it if you want. It's friendly. It's friendly. I think.
It changes color.
I think it genuinely. You know, in an earlier episode, I once said that it is very useful to actually open up your mind and listen to people who have widely different opinions about things than you do, because there's something to be learned. And I'm trying to make sense of where it comes from, because, well, truth to be told, if you don't have the technology that we have today, it's a plausible hypothesis that it is flat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as we can tell, it is.
Yeah, as far as
we don't see very far. Yeah,
sure.
You don't see very far,
But yeah, that was also like one of the explanation of the flat earthers, because it's like if you just look at it, it's flat. It's like, okay, but is there any other proof? Well, we will do some measurements, like, I don't know, to find a proof against the rotation of the Earth and whatever. But they just didn't find it.
How come? I don't get it. No, what's weird to me is, why is it so important to them? That's what I'm really intrigued about.
I don't really care if the Earth is flat or if it's a globe, or if it rotates, or if it's static. I don't fucking care.
But they are very passionate about this, and this is something that is very, very fascinating.
Obsessed.
Yes, it is an obsession, and it has zero real impact on the outcome of your life. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would mean that everything we've ever known about the Earth would be a lie, and several conspiracy theories about the government and stuff like this. But if you start, I don't know. I feel like if you start doubting about this, you can start doubting about everything. You can start doubting about your life. You can imagine, I don't know, maybe you were a robot created for a amusement park, and we don't know.
Yeah, I
don't
agree.
Know.
I agree. one of my favorite stories that has had a very big impact on my life was the story of the peaceful warrior. I don't know if you seen it. They turned it into a movie that is way more popular than the book, as far as I can tell. It's about a guy who trains for the Olympics, crashes in a motorcycle accident, shatters his leg, and still he's training on the horse, and which is on the rings, and which is probably one of the most physically demanding exercises humanity was able to come up with. You know what that is, like the rings that are suspended from up front, and then you do certain, like, holding yourself up. Yeah, you never watched the Olympics?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll show
gymnastics element.
Yeah, gymnastics in general.
Okay.
And 8 months after his shattered leg, he competed in the Olympics and have gotten silver medal, I think. Despite the fact that everybody told him that he will never walk again, and he did. And how I wish I could remember his name. I'm very bad with names, and this is why my technician would be very useful here, because you could do my research. Well, we'll put it in afterwards. He told his story, and the revelation of the new way of life that he needed to embrace in order to be able to move forward and do his training and get where he wanted to go. By meeting a guy he called Socrates, like a big. It's a very interesting. I really recommend the movie. And he has a couple of sentences that changed my way of thinking. I saw the movie version like something when I was 18 or something, and it changed me forever. One of the things he says is that one of the rules of life are, it's a mystery. Don't try to figure it out, because it's just a waste of time. It's not going to happen. And that's exactly what I would apply here. So what outcome? What's the difference in the outcome? I mean, does it influence the fact that you have to pay your bills, that you want to connect with people, that you want to find your passion, that you want to fulfill yourself? How is it influenced by a flat earth theory? And is it any useful at this point to question stuff that you don't have the competence to actually judge whether they are right or wrong? And if you don't have the competence, should you be that loud about it? Because
True. Well, I mean, you're always free to express your opinion. That's
of course.
Clear. I mean,
that doesn't mean it's valuable, though.
Yeah, true.
Also, one other thing, John Cleese, me taught this from Monty Python, is that the weirdest thing is that the less you know about a subject, the less you actually realize you know very little of a subject. Which means that the stupider you are...
I've heard this citation before.
Of course. It's funny, because the stupider you are about something, the less you realize how stupid you are, the louder you become. And that you see a lot.
Probably.
Which I don't judge on, but well, I wouldn't say it's wise. Having that said, maybe I don't know. I don't agree with the theory that we don't need these people. I think it's a healthy thing to doubt things and question stuff that we take for granted.
What you're doing constantly as well.
Sure, especially stuff that everybody takes for granted. But I think it would also have to come with the responsibility of getting competent enough in it so you could actually answer it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that's very fascinating to go about conspiracy theories, and they are fascinating. There's no doubt about it. It's fun. I love it. But we'll never know whether humanity landed on the moon. I mean, us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion about that. Now, again, it's fascinating to listen to it. I love it on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's fascinating, and they have researched this. But you weren't there. It was, 60 years ago, 70 years ago? We'll never know. Never know. It's just, it's one of those things. And it's fine. And at the end of the day, it honestly doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Not to me.
To me neither. It doesn't influence me.
Yeah, you see. So that would be my answer. Is, you gotta start asking better questions. Because that don't bring you anywhere. I think it's a very important psychological exercise to figure out, and genuinely we are built to figure out what things to ignore. I would classify this as something that you can easily ignore. It's not as immediate. It's fascinating, but not more than a video.
It goes too far.
Yes.
Yeah.
It might be. It might be. So exactly. So what's your opinion about the fact that there are people who find you in a position, or find your characteristics to be so impressive that they start to imitate it? Doesn't it tip you off that you're doing something right? I'm still trying to answer the question, how?
Well, I don't know. I never really thought about it. I don't have as a goal to influence people to imitate anything. So that's not something I really think about.
Okay. You don't have to. I mean, it's not a problem. I think we genuinely do as default when we are born.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you learn languages. I mean, that's how I learned, and that's how I see kids learning it.
Yeah,
It's
imitating,
true.
True.
Copying, and
of course.
That's why I asked you yesterday whether you had somebody who you looked up to so much that you would actually regard them as an exemplar in finding their path, because that's a very good way of going about it. You don't have to match that person with everything, but it's
not possible.
Well,
because I don't think there's anyone who is 100% perfect in everything, because we're still humans at the end of the day.
You're not coming from a religious family, right?
Nope.
Not at all.
No. Well, I've been raised with Catholic. Well, in a Catholic way.
Yeah.
With the Bible and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I've been never baptized, and my parents...
All right, this podcast is over. I'm not talking to people who are not baptized. No.
I don't believe you. Your podcast is called The Devil's Workshop, so... It's
a metaphor for God. No, I'm kidding. You know what the Devil's Workshop is? It's a proverb. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. It's like when you have too much free time, it's the devil takes over.
Yeah.
That I love the idea, because back then when we were discussing of doing this platform, I had too much free time on my hand and had no direction, and this exactly struck a chord, and I was like, yes.
I was gonna ask a question how you came up with the name, but
Archit came up with it. Archit just told me in a matter of discussion. We were in La Dubliner, and he just, we were, I think I told him that I had too much free time, and he was like, yeah, man, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. I was like, damn right. And
this is
my
the
name.
podcast.
Yeah, I wrote it down on my cell phone, and I had a couple of ideas, but this was the most, well, it had to be a little metal.
Yeah.
I mean, we are musicians, so, I mean, I still think of myself as, the guy sometimes. Well, it's comfortable. It's a comfortable position to be in.
Very precise description.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have to be. Well, yeah, but it says everything it has to, right? I mean, I don't have to invent words like
the German does.
German folks. I mean, I just say, everybody understands. It's not complicated. I have a feeling that this will not be loved by a lot of religious people, but I think generally that's the idea of God, is that the imagination of an abstract person who would be perfect in every sense.
Well, to have some kind of guidance when you're struggling, it makes sense.
Exactly.
So, well, I mean, it makes sense in the way that people usually, if they're good, if they're doing well, I don't think they really pray to God, or well,
No,
I can, maybe
not
I'm
pray.
generalizing, but probably in poor countries or in countries where not everything is going well, religion has a bigger status than in countries where you don't have to worry about what to eat tomorrow, or if you have something to eat tomorrow or whatever, where you're struggling constantly.
I think I have a very different concept of this whole idea. But last year, I have lost a couple of people, respect with this research I had, because this was always a problem in my life. That
Religion.
as a musician, I always felt a connection. I'm somebody thoroughly empathetic, very compassionate, and it's a problem for me to try to reduce the world to just consciously understandable limits. I can definitely feel stuff that I have zero way to put into words. Especially there was this one time when with 4 of my best friends we were on stage in Budapest, and it was just such a harmony of playing together. We were at the peak of our technique, and it was cool. And I at one point I started crying in the middle of a set. It wasn't even, it was just so overwhelmingly joyful as an experience. And you could explain it like it was I don't know, a chemical outburst in my brain or something. But I think, yeah, you could explain it. It's just I see no use for such an explanation, because it's not the whole how we understand the world is not how we live in it, I think. Where I'm trying to get with this is that Jung has started this idea to try, and Piaget also, to try to mend the world of religion and science. And I think I've got the idea where it actually fits the two together and it works out. And what you're looking for is exactly that. That's why I'm asking. But it's a matter of interpretation. So I have to state that my interpretation is not even something that I worked for. I gathered it from people I deem more competent in the subject than I was. But it seems very plausible to me. And it gave me such a sense of peace when I actually was able to find this, because, here's the problem. No doubt about the fact that the Catholic Church, or any church for that matter, is insanely far from being pristine and undoubtable in their actions.
Yeah.
And I think
that's why my parents decided to leave church.
Exactly, because but there are stuff that are in certain religions, independent of church, that I think are useful and would be a fairly reckless idea to throw it out, because it would be very hard to replace it. The idea of God being one, for example. Let's where I take my example. Let me know when I lose you, because I might, if I haven't already. It's even in the Bible it says that God created the man in his image. Now, if I want to understand this as God is not somebody, it's not a person who's going to manifest itself in front of you.
No.
I think of it as an abstraction. If I could imagine myself in every single aspect I know of, and even those I don't, perfect, that would be God. It's an entity that would be free of sickness, the problem of time, age, any genetic disease and everything. It's not going to happen, because I will run out of time before that, and I have to, because I'm a part of this recycling system like everything around us. But I can abstractly imagine this. Now, I know I have limited time to get there. So what are the aspects that are fascinating to me in it? Let's say well, we all know God is a bassist. I have to put this out there, right?
Okay.
But that is an example to me. At some point, at least, that was the case. However laughable this is, because how I imagine the perfect person is with a better capacity to play bass than what I had back then, and I went into the direction.
Okay.
You are looking for the direction. Like I explained to you yesterday, all your nervous system is tuned to follow in the footsteps, and you are actually putting it into words how much you miss this exact direction. What we have lost with denial of God, and what Nietzsche said when he said that God is dead, how I would choose to understand it is that in my interpretation, he said that the people lost the belief in self-improvement. And the problem is that it's a very difficult idea to replace.
I don't agree with you, because I don't need to believe in God or in any abstract figure that gives me an example to improve myself.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean,
then why do you?
I know where I'm standing, and it's, I don't know, you can have examples, you can have people that you look up to, but
that's what you said. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect, and
because they exist.
Yeah, sure.
But the idea helps.
Yeah, the idea, but I mean, so you basically imagine a better version of yourself, but that doesn't mean it's God. Well,
no, if it would be a perfect in every aspect that is possible, that's what I would call God. But you could name it any way. This is how I choose to interpret it. But in this regard, ever since I have chosen this interpretation, every single time I hear this word, the sound that we associated to it, every single time I hear a religious person speak about the old teachings and the old stories, suddenly it starts to make sense. Because, for example, you could argue that this is somebody you could talk to. Now, you need to take a leap of faith here, but the idea is that the voice inside your head that says that you're doing something wrong, where does it come from? Who knows? It's part of you, but how come that sometimes it says something and you do something completely different? So is it you or isn't it?
We have split personalities.
Yeah, we have several personalities. Now we do know that, but it required scientific way of thinking that absolutely did not exist when these stories came about. Like when the Greeks have described ideas like gods possessed you, Venus, for example, when you fall in love and you become seemingly completely insane and you're doing stuff you wouldn't do otherwise, it's like you're possessed by it. It's like looking at it from the outside, or being possessed by Mars and in a rage, and you do stuff that you're not agreeing with afterwards. So where does it come from? And so I understand the concept.
It's basically just an explanation for what it's a kind of abstract explanation for what you can explain.
Yeah, so there would have
they just try to create.
They just try to conceptualize the world, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem. Nietzsche was right. He said God is dead. We stopped looking at most people I see suffering from this problem have forgotten that it's not about stumbling upon a direction. You actually choose it by imagining yourself in many different ways that are better in one or more aspect than what you are now, and what you seem valuable is where you go. But you have to think it through. It's a different way of thinking about it. That's what I'm going after. You don't have to call it God or religion or anything, but I think it's a useful way of thinking about it. Because, well,
it's all about self-improvement, but
In a part. Well, what else is there? I mean, what else could you do?
What else for
In this life?
in this life? Well,
I mean, you could vegetate. That happens. I see that a lot. But as far as I can tell, these people aren't very happy. So what you could do is think of the most difficult task that you could ever come up with that makes sense to you, how you could contribute to your own improvement or your surroundings, and then you go for it with everything you have. That's it. Now, when the flat earthers come about, I would say,
well, they're investing a lot of.
no, God is dead for them. Because this kind of making sense of the world around you would be something that you would think less of if you could put yourself somewhere in the context of the world around you. But they are very intelligent people having their minds roaming off everywhere. And they find the most fascinating thing. Some people find RPG video games. Some people find flat earth theory. That's it. The problem is that it's effort put where I think elsewhere this effort could be used better.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really bring you anywhere. Well, depends. It depends on your view of the world. If you want to, I mean, basically science is all about finding out things that you haven't found out before, or proving things.
No, not everything. It lacks in one particular subject.
Explaining the world around you, basically, how it's functioning.
No, finding out the rules of it.
Yeah.
Well. A problem is that science doesn't care about us. To science, God has to be dead. We don't matter. And the issue with that is that it's very easy to, a couple of weeks ago, to a friend who lives in Germany, I had to defend my scientist friends because she was like, yeah, but the scientists are all amoral, and they have to be. They can't enter morality into the question when they are doing research. It's hard enough as it is to do research in a meticulously reductionist way, because this is not how you exist in the world. You can't disregard all the stuff that you can't explain, but you feel it or you function by it. Or you can't just disregard it. And I said, it's like, how much willpower do you think these people have? I mean, they have just as many problems as you do on a day-to-day basis, and they still go and do their research, and they try to focus their minds to cut and filter out everything that doesn't belong there. For that very short amount of time, they can actually get it. But science doesn't care about morality. Doesn't care about us. That's when Hiroshima happens. That's when genocidal viruses happen. And scientifically, it's not a problem because you can discover it. I would hardly recommend against them, though. Mm-hmm. It's not in our immediate benefits, or would have a hard time profiting from it. So that's what it lacks. Has to.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I think about it, I kind of agree with you that morality is not always compatible with science. If you look into the past, it's like, when they wanted to know, doctors, for example, when they wanted to know how the human being is built, how it looks on the inside, to be able to better treat any diseases or fix what is broken. They were considered as immoral, or I don't know the word in English, but there was at least there was a really big controversy because they didn't want them to cut open dead people to look to find out how it works, because it was considered as a violation of the human body after death.
Well, it is.
It is.
It makes no sense to us today. I can see why.
Yeah, well, but nowadays we have the discussions about genetic modifications. It's it's
And
not the same, but it's similar. It's just
I
a
agree.
discussion that is now in the modern world a problem.
I think we draw the lines differently, and I do agree with the lines that we draw as far as I can tell for the scientists. They are horribly frustrated. Those who do the research are horribly frustrated by these limitations. But the issue is that literally nobody would have the capacity to actually be moral and do these researches properly. You just can't do it. Because even
Yeah, well, you won't get results.
they won't be reliable, that's for sure. Because as soon as you enter morality into it, you are biased and you want to go somewhere. You know, because if you think about it scientifically, the hydrogen bomb, it's nothing less important than penicillin. I wouldn't recommend it though, going that direction. And we already tried. And well, let's just say that the majority of humanity disagreed for a very good reason. So science doesn't care, and it shouldn't. Like mathematics, equation doesn't care about what the results are gonna be. It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
What it lacks is the direction. It has to have some controlling entity, and that cannot come from science because it would infect it, as far as I can tell. I agree with science. We see everything around us. The level of comfort, the level of opportunity, the level of wealth that has been built here is partially because we as a society or as a whole civilization sacrifice a lot of efforts to move those forward. But the reason, have you ever thought about, you have the clock here. Have you ever thought about why it is here and, for example, in the United States that we have such a wealth? Because it's certainly not because of natural resources, for example. People aren't smarter here. They are better educated, maybe.
Yeah, but
we're not more numbered.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, better education, yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with intelligence or
so why then
smartness. I've never asked myself this question.
That's gonna be your homework, maybe. I can answer you that, but
not in school anymore.
Well, no. Let me give you an answer to that.
Well, I mean, partly. I'm not sure because I mean, of course, there is something to do with history. For example, I think a lot of countries are in a miserable situation because of colonization.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the question why they were colonized, why there was so a big difference between the power of the weapons or whatever.
I think what makes a very big difference generally between here and other places currently is the genuine level of education. That it seems to me that the access to it is higher, way higher than.
Yeah, but how come? How come that it's higher?
We have the same guidance. We have the same set of rules, and this doesn't really match other societies' rules. And anywhere else where it doesn't match it really is in the toilet. Let me explain.
Mm-hmm.
What's the idea that I'm talking about? So it's a trap question when I asked whether you're coming from a religious family or not, because you do. Generations go back. What you said, you yourself, is that your father believes in your improvement so much that he supports it with a lot of what he can.
Mm-hmm.
He believes in your improvement, the furthering of the line, right? Getting the maximum potential, getting you as close to an ideal, perfect version of you, if I want to put it that way. Anywhere else where this is not the case, anywhere else where they are worshipping the belonging to a certain elite of the society or anywhere where it's not about the individual's competence maximized to maximize its own abilities, it's in the toilet. The very Judeo-Christian idea of, this Jesus and everything that we so much shit on, we still act by it. That's why it works. And that's why it's a problem that we have people coming from very far who don't believe in it. And we don't know what to really do with it because it causes confrontation, and several generations have passed here without having any actual armed conflict. So we don't know really how to effectively protect ourselves. So we start to panic, some people. But, the lingering idea is there. It's like the better education you get, the closer you get to your own ideal self, which would be perfection. You will never get there, obviously.
Yeah.
It's also, that, by the way, an idea of the Judeo-Christianism is that you have to accept the fact that you will never get there. And despite that, you have to make absolutely all the efforts into it to get as close as you can. Because this is how you will be able to contribute the most. And everywhere else where we believe that, we have wealth that no humanity has seen for as long as we can trace it back its history. We are Christians in a very profound way. I don't believe in the idea of God as having a guy with a beard this is ridiculous. It's not a person who's manifesting itself to you. But I don't know, have you ever tried to ask yourself a question and not getting an answer? Let me phrase it this way. Have you ever had such a problem that you were so upset by it that you have gotten the answers in your dreams?
No.
You heard about this though. Happened to me, for example.
Well, I mean, it's your subconscious. As well, I interpret dreams as outcome of the subconscious. So if you're processing something, or if you're thinking a lot about something, it comes up finally in your dreams.
Yeah.
Whether you remember it or not.
Okay. You see how other cultures who didn't have the concept of subconscious could explain it, because it's very hard to say where it actually does come from. Because it's you, but it's not you. Why isn't it? Wouldn't you think that your conscious self is the most articulated and sophisticated one? But apparently not. Because sometimes the answers come at a lower level that you don't necessarily have access to by default. So it's it's a tricky way to say where it comes from.
It's probably like the more you think about it, the more you have a blockade. The more you're turning in a circle and you don't realize it. If you think too much about something, that probably happens.
Yeah.
And your subconscious,
I would say, if you ask yourself,
you're doing the thing that comes into your mind first without thinking 1,000 times about it, and without searching 100 other solutions, or what would be best, best for my environment, what would be the best outcome for me. So
yeah, but
that would be my explanation.
Yeah, and it's a very good explanation. It's just as valid. I just see how it would make sense to say, with a lesser scientific thinking, that it is like something, it's like talking to a better version of yourself, and you actually are not stopping until the answer is coming. You ask the question, what am I passionate about and where should I go? And it's not a random thing that we talk about this. I mean, I tune myself as much as I can to these kind of questions, but I'm not the first person you talk to. You talk to a lot of people. You really want an answer, you go for it. And there's a process in you that goes and goes and goes, and it's not going to stop until you, exactly. You could phrase it in a way that, like you are asking a question out in the open, and from somewhere there's an answer that seems like a more wise version of you, which might not exactly be the case, but it's easy to interpret it that way. So when you speak to God in the old books, I would say that's that. When Moses came with the Ten Commandments. It's a metaphor for somebody realizing the rules we are actually functioning by.
But what would make sense?
What do you mean?
The rules that would make sense, so that a
there are some
society
rules
is
of
functioning.
morality. This guy was a judge, so what he did is that people came in front of him, explained their story that were clashing, and he decided who was right or who got the benefit. And after like a number of people, he realized that there are certain guidelines that we are driven by. As far as I can understand, I stole this idea from Peterson, but I love it because the Bible is nothing else, especially the Old Testament. And let's say the core image of it, the core message of it, because there's a lot of different versions and there's a lot of people contributing to it, but it's a genuine text about the history of humanity starting to get conscious about its existence. That's all there is. And a lot of archetypical story about how we function. They had a hard time explaining this, but these stories, especially with our scientific thinking, if you can get them aligned, it's a very useful way of thinking about. It's completed perfectly by science, but science cannot give you answers for your question, for example. No matter how much you will research it, it's not going to give an answer because it's unable to. It doesn't make sense as a scientific question. What should I be passionate about? It's like a question I asked you yesterday, is how do I change what I'm interested in? You can't. It happens. It's you. Yeah. So it's going to happen. I think you're on a good way. There are some exercises for it, like I told you, like writing up what would be an ideal day. That gives you a lot of, because it gives you a very narrow direction to go towards, and that will help determining what you would consider. Yeah, again, you're asking yourself a smaller question, so the answer will probably come faster. It's like, what would be a perfect day for me to enjoy? Then it's going to come out. It's like, I wrote 1 hour and a half composing music that I believe in.
Okay.
And like 2 hours motorcycle outside, stuff like this. 2 hours talking to people I want to learn from or I admire, stuff like this. So that, for example, helped me with the podcast. Helped me realize that I want to talk. That's all I'm interested in. So
I think that's pretty obvious.
Well, that's one of my talents. I'm certainly not the best at it, and there's still a long way to go. But it's something I thoroughly enjoy. And the other thing that we talked about in the previous episode is that what is a craftsmanship, or what is a subject that you wouldn't mind sucking at the beginning. Like, I didn't care that I played bass very badly for the first 2.5 years because I enjoyed it. It's a very good way of thinking about it. If you don't mind sucking, then it might be something for you, because you're gonna suck at everything that you start. It's obvious.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy the process and you don't care, I saw this with a lot of people. You buy an instrument, they don't want to put in the work. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. That was the same for me.
It's
fine. I started learning the guitar. I started with the piano. I started teaching myself some songs, but like, I don't know. If it takes too much time, it's just like...
You wouldn't feel it that way.
Yeah.
The moment you feel what you feel with your exercises, that's exactly what you're looking for. That's why I'm saying that you are in a lucky position to already know what you're looking for. It's the same feeling when you're lost in it. And doesn't matter that the little voice says that, let's just stay in bed at 5 a.m. See? I didn't care. I played bass, 4 hours a day for 7 years because I just loved it. I don't anymore. And it's fine. I have something else.
Yeah, you see?
Something like that. It's just when you start losing yourself, this is the most cliche thing that I probably say today, but when you start losing yourself into something is when you find yourself. That's it. And you might not be exposed to enough type of things, but that's all right. I think you have a very good idea of what would be interesting for you. Cognitively, it has to be a challenge. That's for sure. Maybe you should start looking for people who challenge you more. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, but What I think is, of course, everything you start, you will suck at first. But I think for certain things, you have more affinity than for others.
Definitely.
And that's where it determines if you keep doing what you're doing, even if you suck, because you feel like you can improve fast, or if you stop because you feel like you don't get anywhere. You just you start, you suck, and you keep sucking, and it doesn't get better. So
It's you see, I don't think that can happen.
well, I mean, of course you will.
I'm not talented at bass, really.
Maybe in relation to other people that are more talented than you
Yeah.
are not.
Oh yeah,
But you have certainly a certain talent.
I enjoyed it. I didn't care. I just enjoyed it. I didn't care. It wasn't the point. I wanted to be the best until I saw Victor Wooten, and then I was like, that's not gonna happen.
Well, yeah.
I didn't care. I enjoyed it. That's why I did it. I didn't do it because of the comparison. I did it because I saw the progress in it, however wretched or however little it could have been for anybody else on a day-to-day basis. I still saw it as a progress because I stopped looking outside. I just compared myself to how I was able to play a song yesterday, and today it's better. I didn't care by how much.
I don't know.
Physical exercise, I do care. That's why I can't. Because I do 5 days and I was like, nothing's happening. I abandoned it because I don't enjoy it because I don't have the same motivation behind it. But you do. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You don't care how it compares to our people around. I mean, of course, you can be proud of it because you have reached a certain level, but it wasn't the point. The point was, it's like, I see myself improving and it's fun. It's cool.
Also,
What am I capable of if I put everything to it?
Also, yeah.
And you didn't care if you sucked at the beginning, and you did. So much so that you went to a trainer.
I wouldn't say that I sucked.
Of course you did. Everybody does. And you overthrow it. And it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter if you suck from the outside. If you enjoy it, then it's yours. So you already know what you're looking for. This is exactly what you're looking for in as far as I'm concerned. What exact subject? Yeah, it's going to have something to do with intellect. I can guarantee you. I think the translating thing is a good idea. Suits you. It helps. It's a very good organizational thing where you could put your organizational skills and affinities also. It requires a lot of discipline that you already have. We'll teach you a lot of things because there's a lot of vocabulary. You have to be fast. You have to be efficient. And I think you would enjoy being impressively good at it. And I think your surroundings too. It's a very hard task to do properly. I say go for it as much as you can. Actually, I'm looking for translators for the. I am looking for translators, but until we set up the payment window and it's
once
paid.
I get my diploma.
No, I don't care about that. It has to be just right.
Okay.
We'll talk.
How are you gonna figure out if it's right or not? I could translate it in German. I'd completely fuck up.
I need translations between Hungarian, French, and English. You won't be able to do Hungarian. The other two I speak enough to say, and when in the commentary section it's gonna be, that doesn't make sense, then I will know. That's easy.
Oh my god. In yesterday when we were at Académie de la Bière, I went to the bathroom and there was this sign, please don't put any hygienic articles in the toilet. There was a garbage thing for it, and it was translated in 4 different languages.
With Google Translate?
English, German, French, and Spanish, I think. And I just read the German thing and I was like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me? Because I mean, I knew what they wanted to say because I know French, but it was like, this is just I know that this word means also this word, but in this context, it's just so wrong. It didn't make any sense anymore. If you just had this sentence without the other translation, it means a complete different thing.
Oh, I know.
It's like, I think not even Google Translator is as stupid as this. I don't know how they fucked this up. So I was like this close to just go to the barman and say like, okay, nobody will get what the fuck you mean in the bathroom. Do you want me to translate it for you?
And you should have. And as you said, 20 euros. 15. You pay my tab, I translate that sentence. And look at yourself, how fucking proud you would have been. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would go downstairs right now. I did that. I saw that sign yesterday. You give me 15 euros. I translate. I'm not working for free because I know it better than you do. And I have self-respect. That shit is embarrassing. And you should be embarrassed. So, I think you know where to go.
I have some time. I don't have time left.
You would if it was paid.
True. But
would you be able to fight for it?
Fight?
I mean, to negotiate for your...
Well, I don't think in this case. I mean...
In every case. You have to think as a businessman also. A businesswoman. Business tiger. I don't know. Let's remain gender neutral.
Business alien.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean...
Have you ever? It's gonna come.
To be paid?
Yeah, negotiating for salary.
No.
Well, you're young. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't say I didn't have real jobs, but I didn't have jobs where it's a question, how much are you going to be paid?
It's always a question.
Yeah.
That's the first lesson you learn at my age. But if it's not a question, then you didn't ask it. They are not going to provide you a platform to pull out more money of them. You know,
yeah,
they're not gonna
that's for sure. But
if I could get people to translate me for free, I'm not gonna pay for it.
Sure. But if it's a job, if you don't really need any qualification and you never done it before, and in your opinion, it's a good salary that you are getting for it anyways.
Yeah, I think about this differently, but it's probably because I passed my 30s. And also because I understand that doesn't matter how much they propose. If you get 200 more, just because you tried and you actually achieve it, then you're gonna be 10 times more proud. That's it. And
of course, yeah, but you also should have a good estimation of yourself and not.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't
overestimate.
Sure, of course. No, I completely agree with you. That's definitely
probably a little bit, but
you have to calibrate it very precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Very precisely. I'm just saying. I think it's gonna be very soon apart, and I would have loved if you had the personality test filled out, but it tells you how.
I have it filled out.
It's fine. how agreeable you are, and genuinely, this is something
I'm
that
not very agreeable.
You think so?
Well, the test tells me I'm not very agreeable.
Oh, you did fill it out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How? Can I know?
Well, I just overviewed the results really quickly. So
what percentile have you gotten for agreeableness?
I think something really low. Let me check.
Okay.
Maybe not even. 10%.
We have a
probably
percentile.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that's by not even close to the most extreme result I have ever seen. We have a friend in common who scored at the first percentile. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, agreeableness, moderately low. Oh, well, no.
No.
It's 35th.
35 is fine. I think.
It's okay.
It's not that extreme.
What was
every single
was
other people
was...
I have here is there. I think I'm at 28 generally.
Ah, well, yeah, it was the politeness that is low as fuck.
How?
16.
That's fine.
Conscientiousness is also low.
That's
I have a low industriousness, and yeah.
I don't agree with your low industriousness, honestly. Because that is a descriptor of discipline generally, and you don't seem well. Well, who knows? Maybe it is right.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you, there are very little things that I'm disciplined in, and I think you don't know.
I don't know you done well. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So
I see you only in leap years and pretty much in this context. So I think our social connection is a particular one in your life. I don't think you really talk to people like we talk, but that's fine. So it might bias my estimations. At the same time, maybe it would be worthwhile to assess what things you are disciplined in, because those things are important for you for some reason. That's a good drive. That's a good, because well, how would you know what you're interested in? It's very hard to find it out. But if you think of yourself as your actions instead of just your thoughts, then sometimes it's easier to see what kind of people you are, what kind of person you are from the outside, for example, for other people. So yeah, that helped me a lot also. Also saved me a lot of grief. We talked about that in the last episode. I honestly believe that it's one of the worst contributions of religion. The church, the idea of the original sin, and then thinking something bad is sin. It's fine. Until you're not acting on it, it's fine. You can't avoid it, actually. So the mind is a reflex organ. It reacts to everything. That's what its job is. Why would you want to stop it? It's stupid. You don't want to stop, I don't know, your heart or your kidneys.
or your basic functions.
Yeah. You want them to work. Accept it as it is. It's not you. What you is what you do to everybody else except you. So, yeah. I'm very wise today.
Maybe because of the lack of sleep.
It is a part of it, sure. But I think I said what I wanted. I'm not sure how much came across of it and if it helped in any way.
Well, I will rethink about it, I guess.
I think you're throwing out something that's essential.
Yeah, I think so.
But as far as I can tell, you're really not far. Knowing that I have once in my life stumbled upon what I was passionate about, and now I know how to figure it out. I did it once. So I don't know anybody else who had even anything close. I mean, so that's all I can account for. Maybe I will find some other people who did more. I hope so.
Well, I'll see.
Yeah.
If I find what I'm looking for.
You will.
When I find what I'm looking for.
Depending on how much effort you put into it, I think you will.
Of course. It's for everything.
We're done?
I think we're done.
You will have to go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having accepted my invitation. I'm not gonna be able to speak. It was fun.
Yeah.
I hope you'll find it.
I think you were talking more than me, but I guess that's.
I wanted to talk to you about this. This is a subject that I hold dearly. I think it's so generic in some sense that this is something I wanted to put out. I know you're patient enough to tolerate this, but I also think I would address it better to you than to anybody else, since you are actually asking this question. So why not profit from it? So that's one of the reasons why I thought about you bringing you in. Partially because I respect you a lot for what you actually do well, and because I think you're really close to be able to extract a lot more potential out of yourself with very little effort. And if I can be a part of easing your way into it, then all the better. I don't think I am, but yeah.
Well, we'll see if it helps me. I'll let you know.
All right. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
You can send me some flowers, chocolate. All right. Thank you so much. And then, yeah. See you next time then. Bye.
Bye.